Clicking the buttons. Just double check. It looks like everything is live. Got my background ready. Yes, this time. And cool. We seem to be live. Awesome. Welcome everybody to this week's edition of the AWS Africa Office Hours, where and we being the plural we at the moment, seeing as I'm on my own, trying to answer your technical questions that you might have. Or just general AWS related questions. I'm more than happy to discuss, for example, things like what it's like working at AWS or opinions about things. Obviously, there are some things that I want to be talking about, like green med launches that are coming up. But yeah, please send me your questions. Let me just quickly double check that we are live. Yep, it does seem that everything is working the way that I'm expected to. Today's going to be slightly different. Unfortunately, my friend and compatriot Darko is going to be a little bit late due to another event that he's speaking at that was pushed out at the last minute by an hour or so. But he'll hopefully be joining us before the end of today's, well, in the middle of the session. And let me just confirm. And what we will be talking about, like I said, is taking any technical questions. So I can see that we've got some viewers online already, so please send me questions. Otherwise, what I will do in the meantime is just talk about some random tech things. I'll try to be a little bit entertaining. And maybe just a quick recap. So what I did yesterday is I had a session on DynamoDB and Redis. And I found it fascinating because I come from, so when I started doing my development, basically with SQL, and that was it. We had relational databases and nothing more. It's quite interesting to see how far the different database types that we have available nowadays have come in the last few years. Being able to just literally click, create me a table, and then start adding data into it was, I mean, I love it. It's like, I need to play more with it. I am by no means a DynamoDB expert, but at least I can use it and I know the design principles and some of the trade-offs that you make with it. But I really enjoy that. Okay, cool. I see that we've gotten quite a number of new people joining. For those not familiar, this is the AWS Africa, the AWS Africa Office Hours session, but we do take questions from people outside of Africa as well. Let me quickly just put up a banner over here. Boom, there we know that's what we are doing. And this is a very fun week. It's one of those, if you deal with multiple different teams, daylight savings is very confusing this week. The reason being is that Europe switched over on Sunday, I believe, and the US is only switching over next week or this weekend. And then just to put all of this even more into fun, Australia actually switched on the 6th of October this year already. So we've got 3 different dates where things are changing over, and it has been a little bit confusing for me. So this week specifically, it's like incredibly difficult scheduling meetings because you never know if you're going to be doing that for a time or not. I do see we've got some comments and things. Hey, I won't be able to pronounce this as Satava. Is that correct? And yeah, okay, I do see we've got a couple of new people joining in. Let me know where you're joining from. It's always interesting to see where from the world people are joining. And like I said earlier, this is a technical AMA style session where throw technical questions at me and we will talk about them. As I mentioned earlier, Darko will be joining me in a few minutes, hopefully not too long. He unfortunately had a session that was put out at the last minute, literally, to be an hour and a bit later. So he will be joining us as soon as he's done presenting, which he is currently doing somewhat. And yeah, other things that are fun this week. I know there's a big one, which is a nice release. Let me just quickly pull it up here on the side about releases for the Cape Town region. There we go. And I just want to quickly confirm. I'm fairly certain I saw it go out. Let's see. No, that's way too far. Yes, SageMaker is finally available in the Cape Town region, and that's very exciting because I'm actually based in Cape Town. So obviously, when I first heard the Cape Town region was coming, I was super excited. And now that it's here, we obviously see these features coming out bit by bit. So for those not familiar with how we do this, is that when we launch a new region, it's not that we launch it with all of the services on day one. The reason is obviously it takes time to get the services out. As with any software, there are dependencies, there's planning that needs to go into capacity management, all of that. So we launch with a base set of services that it depends on what the region's requirements are normally. And then as time goes along, we start releasing services. And I mean, you can even expect sometimes services on the same day that weren't necessarily ready at, let's say we open up the region at 9 in the morning. Weren't ready at 9, but nothing stops us from deploying at 10. Because we actually do quite a lot of different deployments all the time. Scanning over here in terms of the releases, I can see that we've actually had quite a few the last while, which is auto scaling is also now available in Cape Town, which is a big one. Because if you think about resilient workloads, auto scaling is one of the mechanisms that's the best way to keep your instances running, because you tell it, I want base capacity, and it'll make sure that it keeps that number of instances up and running. And a fun thing that I realized that a lot of people aren't aware of is that you can actually use auto scaling groups to upgrade and patch instances as well. And the reason how you do this is you can actually create a launch template and you can create new versions of it where you change the AMI in use. So what you do in the background is you have a recurring code build job that you're on. For example, what I did in the past on a Sunday. I would say there's a code build job with multiple steps in it. The first step is to just grab the base operating system image. In my case, at that point, was Ubuntu 18.04. It grabs whatever the very latest one is by looking at doing a wildcard search in reverse or descending order with release date. So you get the very latest Ubuntu image. You take that image, you do apt-get update, apt-get upgrade all the packages. In other words, you know that this is our base image with all the base operating system packages all upgraded nicely. Then you stamp that as Ubuntu golden image with the date. So you know that that's the base one. Then you take that one and you start building the different flavors of images that you have. So for example, let's say I've got a set of Java applications that I want to run, or whatever else you need. And then you add whatever things you need in this chain of building all of the AMIs. And now you've got freshly baked AMIs. Then what you do is, on the Monday, you take your auto-scaling group and you go and update your launch config to now point to that new AMI. That doesn't mean that you're not using it yet. And then what you do is you can actually, with the auto-scaling group, double up capacity. So it spins up the new AMIs next to the old AMIs, and then it takes away the old AMIs afterwards when you scale down to the normal capacity requirements. And that's an easy way to just quickly flip it out. And if you actually set it up correctly, you can use code deploy works very well with auto-scaling groups as well, because it gets notified when an instance comes up, and then the code deploy agent runs and actually deploys the code, which means that as those instances come up with a freshly patched operating system, you immediately deploy your code on top of them, make sure that they're up and running, health checks, everything is working, and then only do you actually go ahead and tear down the old instances. So it's a very nice way to deal with it. And the other benefit of that, and I actually ran into this, is that when a CVE comes along, so actually just quickly check this. I realized that I keep mentioning CVE, but I have not. Critical vulnerability exploit, or common vulnerability and exposure. So CVE is basically a bug that they find in packages code, and it might be critical, it might not be, depending on severity. But if it's a critical one, it means that your system is vulnerable if you don't patch specific packages. So I've been in a situation where we had to patch that, and having a system like this was super useful, because then it's a case of, okay, cool. So instead of doing the Sunday bake, we're going to do the whatever day of the week it is bake. I think at that point was a Tuesday, for some reason. Run through the whole process of just bake a new version with the patch and confirm that the golden image now has got that patch version. And so, we're doing what we do every other week, is we're going to double up capacity, we're going to half capacity, and then they're patched. It's almost a non-event. And I had this years ago as well. I was when I was still contracting, where I had one place I was working at. I was managing about 160, 170 servers. And there was a third-party application where there was an API key compromise. So we all had to generate new API keys. So on the one side, 160 servers. On the other side, 7. The difference was 160 were fully automated and managed by Chef. So what happened is that when I had to do that switch, I changed the value in the config, and then what happened is I changed it, rolled it out, kept it around the fleet because we had monitoring, and you can see when changes kick in, and then ultimately I think it took about 30 minutes in total, yeah, it rolled out without any issues. And then when I went to the 7 servers, that was actually took me longer to do, because I didn't automate them. I had to log into them one by one. Some were Windows, some were Linux, some were SSH, and there was a firewall with a bash. There were multiple issues there. It's one of those unpleasant situations where you don't click, you change the key, you restart it, make sure that the key is taken. Yeah. So bottom line is, try and automate as much as you can that makes sense. You don't want to spend time automating things that don't make sense. Cool. Charlotte, hey, Rick Fundy Books. I'm assuming that's how we pronounce it. Just for those, I do see we've got a couple of new people who've joined. this is an AMA style session. It is not a monologue, hopefully. So if you can please send me some questions or topics you want me to discuss. Otherwise, I will continue ranting. This is very, very weird for me. I generally present with people, most often with my twin Darko. And today is one of the few times that he's not able to join us at the start, which means that I'm literally going to be rambling here on the different places. So, first question then, Rick, van der Bush. The fact that you said nice pronunciation, do you mean because are you not from South Africa? Or are you maybe from the Netherlands? Because Bach is something that. Thank you, GB. I am not awake. I don't have my mic. So this should be a lot better. I apologize for that. Is this a lot better? I've been sitting here ranting with my mic a meter away. So if you couldn't hear me properly, I apologize. I hope it wasn't too bad. And also, my mic has got an upgrade. It now has a little furry hat. Look. Sorry, it's been one of those busy mornings. I kind of like ran in 3 minutes before, but yeah. Cool. Yeah, good to know that it wasn't too bad. But I do apologize for that. Might explain why we had some people join and then just go, this is crap, let's go. But yeah, yes, I need to keep the mic nice and warm. The only challenge now, and I hope this wasn't too noisy, is that it feels like a little hamster. And I had hamsters as a kid, so I love this little, playing with it. So I need to try and remember not to keep touching it. Because it isn't a toy. It's actually it is a toy technically, given that it's something helping me do my work. But Rick van der Bosch, I am from Cape Town. So goeiedag en welkom. We'll be able to understand about 50-50 if I do decide to switch to Afrikaans. My brother's actually living in Amsterdam, so he's now fully trilingual now because of Afrikaans, Dutch, and English. But yeah. Cool. So still no questions. Please send me questions. Otherwise, I will try and entertain you with various other fun stories. On the topic of automation, and I know that we set up today's session. We specifically said we're going to be talking about DevOps in emerging markets, and I was going to keep an eye on. I'm going to hold off on that until about, let's say, 30:30, just to check if Dark is able to join me, because he's also based in an emerging market. He covers Eastern Europe, Central and Eastern Europe. As well as Russia, in terms of, and those are also emerging markets. And it's always a fun discussion to have with people when you look at solutions, cloud adoption, how you approach problems in markets that are completely, not completed, that are established versus markets that are in the process of, emerging, literally, like still figuring things out. It's an interesting thing where, on the one hand, you feel like, but we're behind, we don't know, we need to catch up. But on the other hand, the benefit that I've seen is that you're able to leapfrog certain things. So, for example, if you're just getting to cloud at this point, it might be a good time to look at jumping directly into containers or jumping directly into serverless. Where if you did this 5, 6, 7 years ago, it'll probably be easier if you, for example, went the EC2 route, where you deploy the application directly to EC2, ran it there, and then only started playing a little bit with containers because they were still a bit fresh at that point. Also, hey, Dennis, welcome. Dennis is my colleague from, I want to say Berlin, but I remember that he lives slightly outside of Berlin. I can actually, since he's around and Darko is not, Dennis, I'm going to drop you the link quickly in Slack if you want to come join us today. Don't worry about if your hair isn't combed. We don't mind too much. Let me just quickly send him his link, because like I said, this is very awkward for me just being the only person on the stream. And also the second part that's awkward is like my screen in front of me. I'm looking at a quiz this big. Hamburg, there we go. I knew it wasn't Berlin. It's Dennis is in Hamburg, Darko is in Berlin, and Chris is in Munich. So yeah, cool. But while we wait to see if Dennis is going to make a surprise screenshot. Okay. Here we go. Fun one. This is always a fun. Wait, sorry. Give me a minute. Sorry. Give me 10 minutes. There we go. So as mentioned, containers. What's your take on containers versus pass-based solutions? The easy answer here, and I mean, we throw this answer at every single question we get because it depends. If you're building from scratch, I would say once again, this is actually a hard question because there's so many factors to this. So let's quickly break that down. If I'm starting a brand new application at the moment, I would ask myself firstly, is this something that has got a component that does heavy processing? If it does, then I'd say go the container route. If it doesn't, then I'd say go the serverless route. So let's start off with that decision-making process first. The reason I say this is that serverless functions, specifically AWS Lambda, has got a timeout limit of 15 minutes. And also by the time you start running a single function for 15 minutes, it kind of indicates that you're doing some kind of heavy lifting processing of some kind. And a container is better suited towards that kind of workload. Now, that's one part of it. The second part now, in terms of the PaaS space, which is platform as a service, where you integrate deeply with whatever service it is that you just put a couple of hooks in your code and do that, which effectively things like, for example, Elastic Beanstalk can be viewed as a PaaS, because if you build your app with extensions, you just connect your repository to Elastic Beanstalk and it takes care of spinning up the provider. So it's still infrastructure on the hood, so it's not quite PaaS, it's more like managed infrastructure as a service. But basically, I would definitely start off, a big part of whatever I build would be serverless. The reason for this is that A, it's cheap. Serverless expensive workloads are a few dollars a month. If you think, for example, DynamoDB, 25 gigs and 25 write units and read units permanently free on account. That is good, sufficient, I think, for 20 million requests a month, if I remember correctly. But that means that it's going to be low cost, because one of the things is it's expensive to keep a server running all the time. So even if you spin up a container, there is a cost associated with keeping it running and all that. Serverless, it takes a lot of that away. Secondly, also is that serverless, if you've got spiky workloads, so let's say you're building an app and all of a sudden somebody storms your, or you get mentioned in the news, and then you've got a storm hitting your server, like 50,000 connections immediately. Lambda at this point in time, I think, is better suited to dealing with that kind of, and there are many, many caveats here, so put at least 3 asterisks behind this when you take this comment into consideration. It's easier to deal with, I think, in the Lambda situation with storms happening than it is, for example, with containers. The reason I say this is that I just finished recording a series that we're actually launching on the 16th of November. It's about this entrepreneur that built a website, and we go through the different phases of scaling. And the episode I specifically dealt with is on Elastic Beanstalk. What happens when people start hitting your website? So what I did is that initially we had a single container running on a T3, I think it was T3 large or T3 extra large. And the T family has got CPU credits, which means that if you suddenly hit high CPU loads, you're going to deplete those credits. And when you get to 0, you go back to baseline performance, which is quite low. The trade-off with the T family, obviously, is the reason is that they're much cheaper than, for example, dedicated performance instances, with understanding this trade-off, because there are a lot of customers that tell us that they've got some spiky workloads that spikes every now and then. So initially it is able to handle the workload, but obviously as soon as those credits start depleting, then things start falling over, because guess what? And also, caveat here, I did hit it very hard. I was a little bit mean to it, because I used JMeter and I set it up to ramp up to 500 or 5,000 users, I can't remember, and each of them made 50,000 requests. So we were peaking at about 3,000 requests a second once we got everything stabilized. So it is hitting it very, very hard. And what happened there is that for example, with Elastic Beanstalk, because it's managed infrastructure as a service, it actually brings up an EC2 host. Once that's up, then the Elastic Beanstalk process takes over, installs whatever prerequisites you want. In our case, it was Ruby, so it installs Ruby, gets the runtime up and running, monitors it, deploys the code onto it, monitors, make sure that everything's up running. That takes time, and time being in this scale of minutes, not seconds, which means that to bring up a single instance is a few minutes at least lead time. So during that time, your requests are failing. Where if you did with serverless, those requests would at least be serviced, because serverless is much, the concurrency default, you can go between up to 1,000. And just quick tip there for those that are interested, that's a soft limit, not a hard limit, which means that you can actually request, if you ask for something like, if you want to bump it to 2,000 or 3,000 in your account, you can just log a support ticket, just put some justification over there explaining what the situation is, because that's something we get often enough that is not a case. If you, for example, want to scale up to 10,000 concurrent things, that's a different discussion, because then we normally go, it's not that our system can't handle it, it's more a case of you might not be doing the right architecture, or there might be other considerations. We definitely want to know about that, because that's a very heavy usage of serverless. So we don't want to have the discussion around that. But I mean, that's why serverless is able to handle that kind of spiky workloads a lot better. Now, second asterisk, we've covered the first one. Second one is your database. Your database tends to be the bottleneck most of the time. So if you think relational databases, we've got things like connection pooling. And if you overload your database with too many connections, it'll fall over. If you've got too many heavy connections or heavy queries running, it'll fall over. So even if, for example, you go the serverless route and you've got a relational database and you're able to scale to 50,000 requests coming in, your database might not be able to handle it. So that's the next part of just thinking about what database type to use and what NoSQL option there to use. Quickly, we've got another question quickly. Rick van der Bosch, let me know if that helps or if you've got some more questions around that. I'm more than happy to dig into this a little bit more. Let's have a look. Okay, yeah, so thanks for the feedback. So you are more focused on Azure, that, but it's at the end of the day, you must understand the different tech behind it and what the design decisions are, because as with anything, there are trade-offs. So understand the trade-offs, understand when to do. And this is just one part where I do want to punt a little bit of AWS, given that this is an AWS session, is that if you haven't yet, go look at our step functions. The reason is that with step functions, you could define a state machine. Like, for example, a request comes in, it triggers a Lambda. If that Lambda is successful, it fires off something else. And that something else can be another Lambda function. It can be a code build job. It can be a container that runs to completion, etc. So what you can do is you can easily get best of both worlds. If you've got for example, a computationally heavy thing coming in, there's nothing stopping you from saying, cool, the Lambda function is connected to the API gateway, accepts the request, takes whatever payload is, either put it on a queue or persist it to S3, and then when it completes, it fires off a container to go and process that. And that container literally gets spun up, executes, and runs to completion, and then shuts down again. So you can do things like that as well. So definitely go look at step functions. Quick question over here, which is it possible to run PHP on Lambda, perhaps using a library layer? If possible, would you use AWS SSF? Yes. So yes, and yes. You can actually just go look for with the release of Lambda layers, which was quite a while back. You can actually run a whole host of different languages. The most interesting ones I've seen examples of is people running Rust in a Lambda function. But I've also actually seen people run Turbo Pascal, as well as I think Darko had a sample of Commodore 64. And awesome, I do see that while Dennis has appeared. Let me see quickly, Dennis, if you can hear me. Wave if you want me to add you. Let me just drop him a message here quickly. He's in the background over here. Sorry, I can't type and talk. Cool. Going back to the question quickly. So yes, and definitely. So the reason why I integrate the AWS SDK for PHP as well as you can make direct questions. Okay, so let's go. Welcome, Dennis.
Here we go. Hey, welcome everyone.
Yes, yeah. Oh, you got some nice lighting in the background, or is this your green screen?
No, it's like actual lighting in the background, but I haven't really set it up to work during the day. That's when I stream games at night, it looks really nice, but during the day, it's still I have to work on that. But it's fun.
Okay,
it's awesome. Fun setting up the home studio.
Cool. Quickly, introduce yourself to our audience, and thank you very much for joining. Obviously, on very, very short notice. It's not as much fun with me talking to myself in the room. I do that all day long in any case.
Yeah, I know. I know. Well, I'm Dennis Traub, as Kubus already said. I'm based out of Hamburg, which is slightly outside of Berlin, like maybe 350 kilometers to the west. I'm a developer advocate, just like Kubus, but I'm taking care of the community in the DACH region, so Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. I speak German, I speak English, and so it came natural to me to take care of the community over here. But in general, I really like to be on streams. I stream myself. I like to stream games, but I also like to talk to developers on the stream. So happy to be here. Looking forward to all your questions.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, we've got one on React already, and thanks, Jude. DB, he actually commented and said your setup is quite nice. I actually just want to see if I can fix mine out as well, because I feel let out. I'm trying something new with the light here behind me to try and balance out my face light with the background scene, but there we go. That's a little bit better. Oh, actually, Dennis, why don't you go ahead and can you correct? You're not probably logged in. If you send me your Twitch, I can quickly share that on the banner as well for
Yeah, I can do that.
About that. Okay, but getting to the question quickly. React Lite Amplify is great. What is missing is SSR. Does Amazon plan working in that direction in the future? Or is that a solution for that already? You will laugh now, but as with some things, I need to quickly just double check if I've got the right abbreviation here because I know SSR, server-side rendering. Yes. That is a very interesting question. With regards to where it is on the roadmap, even if I knew, I wouldn't be able to mention anything. But I know that it's gained a lot of traction in the last while. So I would expect at some point that they will definitely look at that again. It's to me, it's obviously very, very amusing because we went from server-side rendering back in the day. So I did that with Java and C# applications, and then we went to everything's in the front end like single page apps, and now we're going back to server-side rendering. So I am having a quite nice chuckle about that. That we seem to be going. Okay, cool. I'm going to be popping Dennis's Twitch stream quickly here in the chat. Just double. Yeah, sorry. Just to clarify there, the sound overlap. Because we're both on headset. Do you mean there's a bit of an echo?
I don't hear an echo.
No. I just had a comment there saying that there's some sound overlap. Oh, it was yours. Okay. No worries. No, it's just always the audio with so that we use StreamYard to actually stream, so we can see each other and we sound good to each other. So the other question quickly is the balance okay? Is because I've been told often that I'm way too loud. So let me know if our balance between the two of us is good enough or not.
I can speak. I can talk a little bit so that you have a comparison of the two. I know that my microphone usually needs some additional gain. It needs a preamp because it's actually it's a radio microphone. It's not a computer microphone, so it needs a little bit of preamp. I've got that on, but I never know if it's enough or if I'm clipping. If I have too much and I'm clipping, so that happens as well.
Awesome. Now, Masa, I do like the mic that you've got. It's got a very good bass rendering, so you get the full spectrum, or rather frequency range, in terms of the audio. Tell us something that you've been working on the last while that's been fun and interesting, or tell us about your game streaming.
Me?
Yes, you.
I've been working on a lot of preparation for reInvent, which is our large annual conference where we present lots of new launches, lots of new services and features, and also have a large number of educational breakout sessions where you can really learn about our services, about the new ones, but also about services that we have had for a long time. And this year, unfortunately, given the current situation, we won't be able to run reInvent in Las Vegas, which we usually do. But on the good side is everybody can join for free this year. It's going to be an online event for 3 weeks, starting in the beginning of December. And we will have many interesting keynotes around new launches. And we have many online sessions, but also a lot of streaming. And this is what I'm going to be part of. I will have a number of service teams on the stream, talking about new services, showing demos, having a kind of Q&A, and I will also be running a kind of daily recap in German language for German customers, and also in the German time zone, in the European time zone, because reInvent, as usually is, since AWS is based out of Seattle, everything is in the American time zone, specifically in the Pacific time. But we will also have, and I'm sure Cobus will do lots of streams as well. We will also have lots of streams and material for our time zone, for the EMEA, European, and African time zones.
Yeah, I'm quite looking.
Yeah. That's what I've been working on mostly. So nothing interesting from a technical perspective, but I'm having lots of sessions with service teams, product teams, looking at what they have built, and there are some interesting things coming up.
Oh, I'm very, very interested. I would love to talk about them, but obviously I can't say anything yet. So just put it in context, the sessions I'm hosting are all focused on containers. So there's a whole bunch of very, very nice container features coming. And yeah, like Dennis said, there's going to be actually fun live streaming because I think we're currently looking at doing the sessions about 25 to 30 minutes per a specific release that we're targeting. And then what we're going to be doing is during that time, we'll have the actual people from the teams that have built them to discuss and talk about it. So yeah, it's going to be a fun, crazy December, to put it mildly.
Oh yes, oh yes. After that, I'm looking forward to my vacation over the holidays. Definitely.
No. Dennis, you get 2 days off. Then it's recap time.
That's what Remember? I mean. That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I must say
it's always a crazy time of the year. The last 3 months of the year is always crazy, and it's so much fun because we get to see so many great new things and talk about them. And yeah, I will be focusing mostly on management and governance services, so things around systems manager, everything that's needed to operate your environment in AWS, and we have a number of nice things coming up.
I must say, it's one of those systems manager feels like that one service that nobody talks about enough. I mean, in my history because before I joined AWS, I was a consultant and like helped companies actually build on AWS and optimize AWS usage. It's one of the first things I brought in was use parameter store to actually do your secret and key and config management. Then use the SSM agent to be able to just run commands and set up some run documents for your different services, bring in some patch management and things like it's so powerful, but nobody uses it. Bad statement. Apologies for that. Lots of people use it. Lots of the people that I interacted with didn't know about it. It's one of those like lesser known gems. Because there's some services that are so useful that it seems that people don't know about them yet. So we need to do a better job of educating.
Yeah, right. That's true. I used to be a solutions architect before I joined the developer relations team. And one of the things I realized is that the whole operations side really comes as a second step very often with customers because they start building on AWS and then they realize to operationalize and to make things really efficient, there are many other services that are not part of the actual building of the software and running of the software in terms of EC2 instances or Lambda functions or containers. But they're really helpful when it comes to monitoring and operation and patch management and configuration management and all these things. So usually a cloud adoption or cloud migration process very often is first try out how it feels to develop and build for the cloud. And second, really learn about the surrounding services that help with security, with operations, with reliability, with cost optimization, which is a very important topic for many customers, where we have a number of services that really help you reduce the cost. And of course, also performance is a very important topic. And there are many services that are not part of the core services, so to say, when it comes to building things of AWS, but they help you have a really well-architected, well-rounded system in the cloud. And this is something that I like to focus on, even when speaking with developers who start working with AWS, because I think it's really interesting to understand that we have so many services that can help you understand and monitor, instrument, and actually manage the environment much better than you can do very often on premises, because you don't have many different vendors that you need to bring together to work together. You have everything integrated into AWS and you can just use it from anywhere. So it's one way to use everything, but you don't need to learn everything from the start. And that's, I think, what makes it very interesting. You can really just start building something, understand how it feels to work with AWS, and then do the next steps and look into things like Systems Manager or CloudWatch or Guard Duty for security, or the Trusted Advisor, or cost management, and so forth.
No, it's a very interesting thing, because what I've also picked up is a lot of people feel that, a lot of people's experience has been that I write code and after that, it's not really my problem. I write some tests, make sure that the code is doing what I think I do, but my job is to punch out code and get it out there. And what I learned, especially when I started building on AWS, is that getting the code on the server is probably one of the easiest steps. It's everything around it that becomes more that needs more attention, and you need to figure out how to handle. One of the fun things is like you need a config change to go out with a specific version. How do you handle that? There are services for that. So the answer there is don't roll your own. Also, don't roll your own container management system. No, just don't. I did it for a while, and it was not fun. It kept on breaking. It was a lot of fun for me. It made me feel good because I'm writing these awesome bash scripts to handling termination signals and all that. But the less you need to manage, the more you can actually focus on improving your product for your customers. Because at the end of the day, they don't care what you're running on or how you're running your app. They just want the thing to do what it's supposed to.
Yeah, I would like to say it's always fun to know how things work internally.
Oh yeah.
But some things should be left to the experts. I mean, in the past, I've been building software where we rolled our own security, our own identity management, and things like that. And these are solved problems, and there are very, very specific solutions out there that you can use that are safe and secure as much as possible. And building them yourselves, there is a certain risk involved. But on the other hand, I like the idea of sometimes really in an experimental account, not for anything that's supposed to go into production, in an experimental account, really try and build something myself, try to really understand how the underlying things work and how the moving parts fit together, just for learning, because I'm curious. But when it comes to then actually implementing a solution, I think I'm much better suited to understand how the existing solutions out there work, because I've learned the theory basically by experimenting. But still, I like to rely on somebody like, for instance, AWS, who has I don't know how many security experts we have in the company, but I assume it's a lot, and I've met a lot of them, and they really know what they're doing, and they know much more about that than I do, and that I ever will, because I'm a developer. I'm not a security expert, and I'm not an operations expert. I'm a developer, so I like to rely on what our operations experts build for me, and I can use.
Okay, and on that note, I can press another fun button.
Hey, Darko. Nice to see you.
Hello, gentlemen. Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
The German colleagues are taking over.
Yes. Kobus.
Ja.
Jawohl.
Genau. Achtung. Okay. Let's.
Let's Darko quickly take half a breath, and then you can quickly introduce yourself for those that are not don't know Darko yet. It looks like you've been playing games in the background. What's going on before you introduce yourself?
So that's can you recognize the game?
No, it's too small.
Come on.
The logo is tickling me.
Show me your age. Show me your age.
Just remember, I never played TV games. It wasn't allowed.
It's not a TV game.
Computer game.
It's a PC. It's a computer game. Through and through.
Is it
Street Fighter?
Nope.
Street Fighter?
Do you know who Guybrush Threepwood is?
No.
Secrets of Monkey Island.
Shish kebab, shish galeri.
Secret of Monkey Island. So.
I never played that.
Okay.
I never got into Monkey Island.
Oh man, I played.
You know, back in the day when I used to play computer games, it was things like Raid over Moscow and
Quickly, we need to get swag for these shows, because Tom Telecom definitely would win something, because he was able to spot it here.
There you go.
I think I have something for him. I think I have. What do you think if we just hand him a credit voucher for AWS for $25?
Yep.
Yeah, we can do that as well.
Let's do that.
Reach out to somebody directly, and
reach out.
I was going to suggest.
Reach out to me via DM. I'll paste my Twitter. Should be able to write.
Yeah.
I'll paste my Twitter link here on the stream. And just send me a DM on Twitter. I think my DMs should be open. If not, send me a message and let me know. And then via DM, you can send me your email address, and I'll send you a credit for $25 for AWS.
Cool. GeoDMB is apparently whispered in the answer. Ah, yes.
Did he? Did he?
No.
Do you know? Okay, so a fun fact about the game before I introduce myself once more. Guybrush Threepwood. Why was he called Guybrush?
I know, but I can't say because you told me.
Did I tell you?
Yes.
Okay, so they actually created this thing on an Amiga, on Deluxe Paint. It's a program that does. It was the program for graphics back in the day, and it would have files with the extension .brush. So when they started creating this main character, they just called him Guy.brush. That was the name of the file. So he was Guybrush Threepwood.
Oh, okay.
Useless information to start your day. And hello, everybody. My name is Darko, and I'm here to entertain and educate. I'm a developer, as both these gentlemen here, based in Berlin, Germany, not so far away from Dennis here. But yeah,
Slightly out. Yeah, slightly.
Slightly outside. 2 hours with the train. 2 hours? An hour.
Yeah,
hour and a
like
half with the train, right?
Yeah.
And I've just came off a conference, so I just delivered a talk on.
I can see you all nice and formal.
See, I'm formal. See the formality with me? Yeah. But yeah. So I've been speaking so far. What's the topic of today?
Today we were going to, before your session got pushed out, going to be talking about DevOps in emerging markets.
Okay.
And how that's different from DevOps everywhere else. Basically, it's just the price of the package that you buy, because everybody needs at least 3 units of DevOps.
Exactly.
That's what we found is like the minimum units.
Do you buy your DevOps in bulk, or do you like the
you get if you buy? No. If you get 50 or more units of DevOps, it goes better.
Okay. DevOps is basically just boxes of YAML, right? So it's just a box with a lot of YAML inside.
No, JSON YAML, and if you want to be hipster, TOML.
TOML, the hipster markup language.
Yeah, my only exposure to TOML was configuring traffic as a reverse proxy. Yeah,
I was doing Google with TOML.
Interesting.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. What was your talk about? We've been. I just asked Dennis what he's been working on the last little while, and so what was your talk on today, out of interest?
Machine learning and AI on AWS. It was a very high-level talk, so it wasn't anything super deep. But a lot of the folks who were listening to me basically are people who are entry-level students and people who are starting with the cloud and AI and ML. The title of the talk was "Everybody Can Do AI on AWS." AI/ML on AWS. So the goal is to show that no matter where you're coming from, what your level of knowledge is, you can always benefit from AI and ML on AWS. So with all the 3 layers of services we have, from AI services to ML services to actual deep learning infrastructure that allows you to do that, no matter what you're doing, you can actually do AI and ML on AWS. So I think that's a fact not a lot of people grasp, right? So when people come in and how do I start with machine learning, and like, I need an NVIDIA GPU, I need to rent things to train my model. No. There's things out there, and like, if you don't care about ML, if you don't care about learning how to do things in PyTorch and TensorFlow and building algorithms yourself, use AI services out there, use recognition, use transcribe, use those things. So I think that was the whole point of my talk. So it was fun. Okay.
Awesome. We have got a question, and this feels like it's a paid-for question.
Sponsored by Rick VD Bosch.
Rick van der Bosch.
Rick van der Bosch. Okay.
Funder.
It's
getting there, not quite clear. Oh yeah. So the reason why this is, Rick, why we're joking like this, Darko myself, and I'm sure Dennis has also had some infrastructure as code experience, is that we talk about infrastructure as code a lot. We've got very strong opinions about it, and we kind of like believe that at this point in time, everybody should be using it in some. Van den Bosch. Apologies. We should be using it in some form or shape. I mean, Terraform, AWS CDK, CloudFormation, Pulumi. There's so many ways you can do it. So I would highly do that. So With regard to your question of how we support infrastructure as code and what our views, well, the views around it, you should be using it. We love it. When you say how does it support it, what do you mean exactly by that?
Maybe I can take it.
Do it.
Cool.
I would like to hear
quick
your
stats.
opinions. I know what Cobus says about infrastructure as code, but I
Yeah.
would like to hear about you, Dennis.
Yeah,
I love your lighting, by the way.
I'll
I
take
love the updated lighting.
Yeah, I'm working on it. At night when I'm playing games, it looks really nice. During the day, the colors are still slightly off with the green curtain in the background and my red face and everything. That still need to work on it. What I think, what does AWS offer? Right, that's what Rick wanted to know. So infrastructure as code is a very important topic for us because, of course, everything that we do or that you can do in AWS, you do through an API. And you should be able to really automate as much as possible, which means everything. Because whenever you do something by hand manually, there's a risk of introducing mistakes and not being able to backtrace what you have done. So infrastructure as code, really one of the large benefits is a high level of automation and reproducibility. And so we do have a service for this specifically, which is called AWS CloudFormation, which tightly integrates with AWS, where you can create your resources as so-called stacks. And you define the resources and how they work together inside of stacks. The stacks are being deployed into AWS. And then you can update, modify the stacks, but you can also do things like drift detection. So have it detect if the actual state of your infrastructure has somehow changed in relation to what you deployed through the infrastructure as code service. And we also support things, or the other way around, Terraform. You can use Terraform to describe and define the infrastructure on AWS. But there's also a new thing called the AWS Cloud Development Kit, which is an open source tool where you can define the infrastructure programmatically. So you can use languages like TypeScript or JavaScript. You can use Python or C# or Java to actually program the infrastructure in terms of, let's say you need a new network, a new VPC, a virtual private cloud. You simply say, VPC is assigned to the variable VPC, new VPC. And then you can either use high-level constructs where everything is being set up for you, or you can actually use very low-level constructs where you can actually work basically like in CloudFormation directly on the API of AWS. And the interesting thing around it, since it's open source, by today, CDK not only targets AWS, you can also, there's also CD Kubernetes, so you can create your Kubernetes, define and modify your Kubernetes cluster using CDK. And there's also a Terraform module by HashiCorp, so you can target Terraform using CDK.
But also, the best thing about infrastructure as code, you can use thing like this to create your infrastructure. A 15-year-old computer works to create full infrastructure. So, as long as it has a text editor, it just works. So,
So what I want to do just to, I just want to augment that quickly from what Dennis has been covering now. It's like this is a presentation did a while back around the options. So quickly, this is this is a SAM template. Wait, where's some CDK?
If you have to go down, you have to go. No, that's CloudFormation. That's CloudFormation.
Yeah, but what I want to say is this is CloudFormation. So just quickly to give you some samples of some of the ways you can do it. So this is what CloudFormation looks like. It can be YAML. It can also be JSON. You define the different things here. So you can see, for example, here I'm creating a code commit repository. I'm also creating a Cloud9, which is a web-based IDE. And this is kind of what it looks like. You've got functions to access different resources and things. Then taking it one step down into, wait, I've got some CDK up here from Darko. Thank you, Darko. So this is what the CDK looks like, which is code. It's literally like code. So you would go over there, you could see, so this is an image. That's how you define a VPC. You say, and this, I believe, imports, this means it's JavaScript, I believe,
it's
or
JavaScript,
TypeScript.
TypeScript.
Yeah, JavaScript. So you can see, so if you're more comfortable with coding, then you go this route. Or if you want to go down to, there should be some Terraform in here as well. Was that? No, that's not Terraform. There we go. Here we go.
Yep.
Yeah. So here you can see what Terraform looks like, which is it's JSON-like syntax. It uses HashiCorp configuration language. So it's slightly different. Looks like that. It stores state in the state file. You can use modules and things. So there are a lot of different ways to do it. And if you are interested in this, definitely head over to Darko's YouTube channel to have a look there.
Yeah, I think he's the expert on this.
I'm not an
I'll
expert
fight him for that.
I'm not an expert. I just talk a lot about it. That's the difference, right? People think I'm an expert, but no. But yeah, the video I linked is like where I explain what is CloudFormation and how it works. So if you're interested in that, Rick, that's a potentially a good way to check it out. But yeah, I would say that any major infrastructure as code framework out there supports AWS. So, yeah, unless it's proprietary. So
yeah, you can also look at it. I think I haven't been good at keeping it going. I've got a 5-part episode on how to get started with Terraform. On AWS as well, if you want to look. And Terraform can do multiple different providers as well, AWS being just one.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had one show where I introduced CDK, but that's German. That was in my stream. It's on my YouTube channel as well. But that's in German.
Das
yeah.
CDK.
Did you translate CDK to the vocal development kit or however you would call it?
No, I didn't. No. I did not. No, but just in general, what's very interesting is through the tight integration with CloudFormation and CDK can so CDK can produce CloudFormation. You really have a tight integration with AWS, so you're able to do things like drift detection. The state is managed inside of AWS. You can use Terraform, and I like Terraform. I really like to use it. The only thing that you need to be aware of if you use something external, that you have to manage the state somewhere. You can certainly manage the state in Terraform, or Terraform has a way of managing state, but it's not tightly integrated with AWS. So if you have a drift from what's the actual state in your infrastructure because someone went in there and changed something manually, you might have to go into the state file of Terraform and change things. I did that a couple of times. It can be messy. It's interesting because you learn a lot of how Terraform actually works and how AWS works, but still it can be messy. There are many things that you can use because the thing is everything in AWS is accessed through an API, so you can automate everything using infrastructure as code. And I think that's the important thing, no matter what tool you use and what kind of tooling you prefer.
And you should use infrastructure as code.
Yeah.
There's no excuse.
Yes.
So I would always argue with that, but yeah.
But getting back to the topic today, which I wanted us to focus a little bit on, like DevOps in emerging markets. It's an interesting one for me because what I found is that a lot of companies, you're able to literally leapfrog and just go directly to the cloud and start building them. If you do things like infrastructure as code, you can actually get away with a very small workforce. I mean, Darko, what are the things you've seen in the out there in the wild of people that, like I said, take the emerging market angle where, we're still figuring out tech potentially, or it's not like a.
I think when it comes to, and I like using DevOps, right? So migrating to DevOps or whatever you would like to call it. I'm very careful with that terminology because nobody has ever migrated to DevOps, right? It's a continuous thing you do. But one of the things I've seen, and this, I think the only difference, I wouldn't say there's a difference between emerging markets and a more established market. The difference here would be between companies which are longer in the game versus newer companies. And in emerging markets, we have companies that are very new due to the fact that, economy here has not been booming for the last 100 years. It's been, maybe the last 20 or 15 years. We get these new companies that are basically have been born into DevOps or the agile or modern development, right? And my experience was that I went to a company in Serbia, like a small company, and basically just talked to them. Why are you not moving this faster? Like, this is what you can do. Like, okay, we didn't know about that. Like some of the DevOps principles. Okay, let's integrate monitoring. Let's do observability. Let's do testing of our code. And that was like relatively possible to do. Yeah, added devs to page 0. Yeah, absolutely. Is that what you do?
Let's put that on the screen. This is
Oh yeah.
But I also work, like, I actually spoke to Dennis about this. I work with a very traditional German company, like one of the, like, if you think a traditional German manufacturing company, that's it. And I've spoken to them this year about DevOps, and it was like, oh no, that's not for us. It's very difficult to do. So I think it's more of a how a company has approaching things. And my opinion would be that in emerging markets, because of the age of the companies, it's easier to adopt DevOps principles than it is into more established,
traditionally organized companies. Yes,
correct.
Yeah. But to be honest, from an American perspective, even Germany is viewed as an emerging market.
That's ridiculous.
Africa saying, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, right. Right. The thing is, the great thing in especially the emerging markets is really that there are so many more startups right now and companies that are still very flexible and able to move quickly and change quickly, as opposed to many traditional, very old companies that we have in the US, but also in Germany and many other countries that one might call the global north or whatever. Yeah. They really have a hard time in changing. They are very established in their old traditional ways of doing things, and there's a lot of resistance built in. They have processes and procedures and power structures and hierarchies and things like that. And I've been working with large enterprises, but also lots of startups in the past. And it is really fun to work with small companies, with emerging companies, with startups, but not only startups, but also established companies that are still able to really change things and modernize themselves, because then you can really see how quickly they build things. And that's what's most exciting for me. I'm not really a builder myself. I don't like really go into the details and build things. I really like to show people what they can do and then watch them do things with it and run with it and build great things. And that's really fun for me. When I go into a company where I have to talk to management for years to make them do just anything, this is really frustrating for me. And when I go into a company or into a place or just meet with developers who build something for themselves and show them things and see how their eyes light up and they start, oh, let me see how that works. And a week later, they ping me on Twitter and tell me, hey, look at that. Look at my GitHub repository, or look at that piece of software I made. And that is really exciting. And this is something that's really working well in the emerging market with emerging companies, with new technology, and with AWS.
I would agree. And Kobus, did you ever have an experience where, like, a company would adopt DevOps and fail, like not be good for them? Like,
well, yes.
Okay.
It's the same way that I've seen companies adopt Agile and fail. And the way that it happens is that they look at what DevOps is about and what Agile is about, like all the things, they look at the stuff that makes them happy, like being able to reduce code daily, etc. And then they go like, I want that, but I still want this old waterfall bit on the other side. So can you please project the next 9 months worth of releases on that date? And I'm going to hold you to that date, even though we sneak features in. But remember, you can deploy daily, so that's not a problem. So I want that. You know, I've now gotten the DevOps into this. So that I've seen. Understanding the trade-offs is the biggest mistake I've seen.
I would agree. I would really argue with that, because I think that's very important to understand that if you do DevOps and you try to still maintain the old traditional, like what's that? Like, I mean, yeah, you can, but it's, again, DevOps is not, you can't buy DevOps. It's not a box. It's a thing. It's a whole set of cultural shifts, procedures, and adopting DevOps is not just like installing DevOps. So
yeah. And the other way I've seen it fail is if you create a DevOps team and then like literally go like, you sort out the DevOps, you sort out the cloud automation, you basically become the ops team just with a different title, and now you're deploying to the cloud instead of on-prem. That also fails horribly. Yeah. So with that, I must say we have got 45 seconds left. So Dennis, you can get the first 15 seconds to quickly say goodbye and some last thoughts.
Yeah, last thoughts. The quote I just posted in the channel, backlog estimated all the way through, is that's I'm paraphrasing Dan North here. That's not from me. However, just thank you for having me on the show. It was fun talking to you again, and thanks for everyone to watching. I have actually Tom contacted me on Twitter already, so I will make sure that he gets his voucher, and maybe we can every now and then make a small raffle on the show where we hand out things like this in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Cool. Take care. Have a nice day.
Yeah,
thank you.
Darko. Oh, we're just ending. Fine. Okay. See you all tomorrow. Come join Darko and myself at 11 a.m. South African time, 10 a.m. Central Eastern time. Or wait, no. You understand time zones. Darko, quickly explain.
It's 11 a.m. Central European time, and it's 12 o'clock in South Africa. So,
thank you.
Like
I said at the start, time zone this week is breaking me. But with that, thank you very much.
We'll switch to UTC.
Yes, we need to end now because the next one is starting. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye.